Hey everybody, Neon here doing another analysis video, this time focusing on the game between Freddybabes and MieGod, which actually ended in a tie. And so that was one that happened today in the WePlay tournament. Of course, you can check the links below in order to find a link to the VOD there, and I think that it was a really fun watch. I think the casters did a great job, but this was just a strange game in how it played out, and I don't even totally have my mind wrapped around what happened or what should have happened. So I kind of just like go through it and give you some of my initial thoughts on it. I don't really give any like detailed thoughts on this one at the end compared to some of the other ones because I just haven't really figured out exactly what really happened or how it should have been played because I felt like there's a lot of mistakes and sloppiness on both sides, or maybe I'm just missing something, which is entirely possible. Anyway, let's get into the game. Okay, so as I was saying, this is red-green versus red-black. It is Freddybabes on the side of the red-black deck, and MieGod on the side of the red-green deck. And especially, I think that this one, the late-game decision-making is particularly interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on there. The early stuff, the early game actually, I think, generally goes very much in MieGod's favor. Like, right there, you got a nice draw off the Unearthed Secrets. Obviously, you want that to be off of as little damage as possible. Just get like maybe like a little bit of creep damage in there or something like that. But in this case, we are taking the damage from the Bristleback on MieGod's side. So not exactly precisely what you want, but it's still fine. And then trading, of course, in the right lane. So this Drow Ranger, I think, is very obviously going to go to the right-hand side for MieGod. It just looks very, like, you look at the composition of each of the lanes, like, she's going to spawn in front of the Bristleback in the middle, and she's very likely to spawn in front of the Axe in the left lane, and she just generally wants to be in the right lane as well, so that is the most obvious spawn there for her ever, and in addition to, so that is part of the reason that the Lich shows up there as well, but in addition to that, it's also a lane that isn't contested yet, and he has the possibility to take over it with just his presence, so that's part of the reason why that all happened, but, I mean, that's kind of obvious, though. The second Unearthed Secrets comes out right here. This is a bit concerning for the side of Freddybabes, is that's a lot of card draw that MieGod has access to, and it's always worth remembering that the card draw isn't just about the card draw itself. It's also about just having access to a variety of different tools and answers and stuff. Like, I think a lot of the times it's easy to focus on card advantage in a pure sense. This isn't so much a matchup that's about that. It's about finding the pieces that are the most useful in a variety of different situations and having that flexibility is, I think, what's most important, because this kind of game, you're going to see both players end the game with lots of cards still in their hand. But that Tyler Estate Sensor does come out here. I also, we said the third Unearthed Secrets come out. I'm not a big fan of the placement there. There's a pretty good chance that just never gets activated. And you're also playing against a deck that has the Magicking Malls in the shop. They can't buy it right now, for example, but they do have access to them. And I kind of want to only play that out, the Unearthed Secrets out, when I know that I'll be able to have a hit on it. Should note, just by the way, we have the Tide Hunter that's coming out right here. This is an interesting hero that he's playing in this game, in this match, on MieGod's side. It's basically, I think, as far as I can see from it, for the Kraken Shell ability, card, the Ravage ability is really good in draft, but it's a lot less good in constructed because A, the games are shorter, and in terms of just like number of turns, so it's much less likely to be active. There are a lot better ways to turn him off and to stop him from doing it, and it's also just like there's a lot more fighting, I guess. Like, you're not going to have built up lanes as much. Like, you aren't able to do things like, I don't know, Divine Intervention to save a lane and build it up and then set up for a big Ravage turn. So there's not as much ways to kind of really maximize that. So really what he's being played for, as far as I can tell, is largely this is a stupid red body that is difficult to fight through against other red decks, and it also gives you 3 of those initiative cards, which is really important here. Now, this is another weird play that we see of the Viscous Naval Lagoon not coming out on the Legion Commander. I think the purpose of this is to play for initiative, of allowing Freddybabes to do this gank here to kill the Treant Protector in the mid lane. The casters speculate that this was to play around cheating death specifically. That feels like a weird prioritization, because this doesn't seem like the lane that you would want to be playing the cheating death in. It would be into the, I guess you could play it from the mid lane into the right lane, which would be kind of a pain in the ass. So that would be, actually, yeah, I kind of like that. Then I suppose that it could be really problematic. I mean, in general, playing around cheating death and in terms of like, you're really fixating on it is just not what I like to do, because it's such a high variance card, and distorting your play around something that, like, basically trying to play around the high rolls that are possible is a little bit much. So I kind of am not a big fan of doing the gank on and that, because also you could have just ganked the Drow Ranger in the right lane that shuts off a cheating death that's in the right lane if it gets placed there, because there's no green hero anymore. But in the mid lane, like, you're probably going to have a hard time. I guess you could kind of still push this tower. It's just that the idea of, like, pushing a tower and actively trying to take a tower that has the 2 unearthed secrets on it is just not where I would rather be. Yeah, doing the Drow Ranger, once again, like, I'm just thinking that actually seems really good relative to how other things turn out. We get the Berserker's Call here. It might seem a little bit weird to do that specific trade, but the purpose really is to play around Time of Triumph. Time of Triumph is obviously being powered out here by some ramp spells. And instead opting for the Spring the Trap. Spring the Trap also, like, it's a part of the reason that the card is good is that it gives you something that you can do in situations like this, where you're threatening maybe a Time of Triumph that'll happen in the future, but you don't have a good one right now, so as a result, you do that instead. This lane has just been so strange, though, that it feels like both players are fighting for it really actively when there's 2 unearthed secrets on the lane. It's just not would be where I would be wanting to spend my resources on either side. It just feels like a lane that's worth sacking for one player. So I'm not sure here. It's hard for me to read, but I think that there's a Blink Dagger and a Town Portal Scroll in the hand of MieGod, and there's part of me that wants to get that Tide Hunter out of this lane for that purpose, and just kind of take this as your sack lane, hopefully draw a couple cards off those unearthed secrets, and you still have the opportunity to spring some traps here in the future if that will buy you enough time to get the pacing of the game to work in your favor. But yeah, so we get another gank here, this time on the Axe that's in the left lane, which is, I mean, that makes sense, all things considered, of trying to once again block the Time of Triumph turn from happening. And this is part of the reason why, yeah, we get the TB out for the Tide Hunter. So maybe that I think would work out pretty well for MieGod, all things considered. This lane is, though, working out very well for Freddybabes. It should be noted that he had the opportunity to sacrifice this creep last turn. He didn't do it because he was playing for that initiative. You could really tell that he really, really focuses on initiative, because there's a lot of instances where there's, I think, a close call of saying, oh, does he want to play for this, does he want to play for that, or does he want to play for initiative? He always plays for initiative. Basically, from what I can see, he just really likes to have control of that. Like, for instance, that nasal goo that you see in the hand still. So I'm not sure if that's correct, though. Maybe he's just, like, overvaluing it. Okay, so the opponent, MieGod, has 3 heroes to deploy. All of them can go left lane here, and this sets up a massive Time of Triumph. The question is, what do we do now afterwards? Because obviously buffing up all of our mans is great. It does threaten this lane quite dramatically, but what do we do from here? Because we have we have the Cloudstream Hourglass, we have the Blink Dagger. What do we want to focus on here? And I think that, like, both mid and right are, like, there's stuff that you can do there. So he ends up going to the mid lane, which I find strange given the fact that he has the Ravage now. Like, he could go right lane and just try to Ravage there. And then it's just, I mean, that seems like a really strong play to do. And then you also have here the opportunity to TP out one of the remaining players in this lane. He ends up going for the Drow Ranger, which is another decision that I find strange. Because, I mean, the two heroes are pretty similar in the situation about which one you're taking out of the lane. Like, I don't think there's a huge advantage in terms of one another, in terms of what it does to the lane itself. But, for instance, the Drow Ranger, while she was in play, was threatening this Bristleback because all of those creeps had +1 attack. And then also even you'd be threatening more damage on this lane too, especially if, like, for instance, if they TP'd out, then you're basically threatening lethal on this lane. Like, I feel like that was a strange play of prioritizing her over Treant Protector, and I really can't figure out why you would do that. Like, are you really, you care about the creep that desperately? You care about the 2 health on your tower that desperately? That just seemed, I honestly can't find it, because also you had more damage on the tower too, which is, like, that's important in this situation. Like, it's looking like this is going to come out down to a race. I mean, most games of Artifact do. So, I don't know. That one's strange to me. Freddybabes, though, has some options. He can decide to abandon the lane by blinking out if he wants to. Decides not to. Just taking his lumps. Like, I mean, right there, you'd have a dead Bristleback. That's pretty nice. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being picky or bitchy about it. I don't understand. Why did he do that? Yeah, there's nothing very much to do here with black cards. You can't really push the lane any faster because you don't want to actually commit any resources here. This is obviously going to be a dead lane very soon. So, yeah, and this is also a deck, like, different versions of these red-black decks have different abilities to push towers. The ones with Sorlakan are the ones that have the ability to consistently push Ancients or copies of Disciple of Nevermore. I don't believe this version of red-black, the Freddybabes version, has either of those cards. It just seems like this is a red-black kind of mid-range deck, which is fine as an archetype, but it means that you can't push Ancients as nearly as effectively. Okay, so things are getting very real. We have no towers down just yet, and it's looking like the left lane is fixing for a fight. Initiative right now is on MieGod's side. So he definitely has some more gas in hand of stuff that he could be doing. I can't quite make out all of the contents there. He does not have a Time of Triumph. Also, by the way, on the previous turn, I actually should note, I didn't mention this at the time, but I felt like there was an opportunity there to... Actually, I think we'll have an opportunity again here to do this, but we'll get it to that, actually. I'm not going to skip ahead. So, this right here, we have a coup de grace in hand, which is obviously very powerful to do, but I think we have one that's unlocked still. But it is the play for MieGod. And he's going to start with a Gust, which is a very good place to start in most cases. I'm wondering what his plan is here, though, because you want to be able to push some tower damage. You also want to help to, like, you know, kill some of these heroes, maybe stop some damage on your tower, for example. Like, it's just hard to accomplish a ton. I mean, you have to do this in order to block the Time of Triumph, I think. Like, getting hit by Time of Triumph here is just a little bit too much, especially how much stuff your opponent has here. Berserker's Call, this is quite reasonable. This is also another advantage of the Drowura, is that it allows the Bristleback to actually spar effectively with those centaurs, and so that's just another one of the many benefits of Drow. She just really helps with all these like really important breakpoints. But yeah, this tower is definitely falling here for Freddybabes. So the question is whether or not he just blinks out. I think that he still has the blink dagger, and I think that he has a TP as well. So both of them are possible. He decides to go for the TP. Now this, in my opinion, you need to smash the defenses, both of your Unearthed Secrets, if you're on the side of MieGod, because I feel like this lane is like you just have too much committed to this lane, and you want to find something that you can hopefully do something. I guess that it's like you have a bit of a problem of if you find something like an initiative card, you can't use it at the end because it's going to be blocked with the Classroom Hourglass. But I guess that the Classroom Hourglass was on the Bristleback, so it wouldn't have been that bad. But also just like cycling through your deck and getting further into seeing what you have access to is just so good. And especially because you know also that actually they're probably going to have to spend some initiative here afterwards in order to kill the tower. And like so it's not an initiative cost to do that. Like they have to kill the tower here. And if they have the initiative card, then they have the initiative card. So I actually just think that was straight a mistake. They definitely should have smashed the defenses, both of their Unearthed Secrets in that situation, because there was nothing else for them to be doing. See, also, like, go back to that town portal on the Drow Ranger for it. Like, had he saved it and just not TP'd anything out of the lane, which would seem to be a perfectly reasonable decision at the time, then he would be able to TP out his Tidehunter in the mid lane there. And I feel like Tidehunter would be kind of good in this situation. You know, he would do some stuff here. And so for instance, they do have the coup de grace on the side of Freddybabes, because you would have to coup the Tidehunter, especially if they're in like particular positions. So, but that then allows the Treon Protector to play out things like the Roseleaf Protector, Roseleaf Druid, plus the Emissary of the Quorum, which is quite powerful. Maybe some Stars Aligned play, something like this. By the way, the Potion of Knowledge play here, this is just a soft pass kind of play to try to induce your opponent to do something. When they only have 3 mana open, it's hopefully the kind of thing that they will, like, there's not a lot that they can do for it. The fact that it doesn't really matter as a play is because you're already locked out because of the Classroom Hourglass, so that's a bit of a problem. So just glancing at the battlefield, just trying to figure out if there's anything that can be done. Dueling Centaur to basically put that tower just out of reach of lethal. This has an opportunity now on the side of, we have to put the Blink Dagger out to set up lethal. Stonehall Elite plays out here. Now, like, all of this posturing is ultimately going to end in a tie. This is actually the second tie back-to-back that these two gentlemen had, which is pretty impressive. But this is something that can happen a lot in these Time of Triumph mirrors. But this was just a strange game and how it played out, because it felt like MieGod had a lot of advantages throughout the game, and it felt like Freddy played very passively. Like, you see that both players have a ton of cards left in their hand, and I'm not sure exactly where things could have gone differently. I just know that the game felt strange to me, and that had, I think, a player... It didn't seem to me that either player had a really concrete plan and idea of where the game was supposed to be going. Like, just the way in which they were committing to the different lanes just felt kind of at random to me. So maybe I'm either not seeing something of what's going on, or it was just one of these cases of players just using the cards that are in their hand, which is, I think, an obvious thing to do once you get into this complicated game. And I think that they identify quickly that this is strange. I don't know how to actually deal with this. So this to me also is the kind of gameplay that you want to be familiar with in order to try to figure out how to avoid. Because I specifically feel like MieGod probably had an opportunity to win this game. Actually, I feel like both players did. Like, this game was winnable for one player, and I think that going through like a replay of this and deciding like, okay, when was it that we should have identified like, you know, which lane should we have moved in on and when was hard to do. And it's hard. I'm not going to go back through it in great detail in order to do that, because I think that it's difficult, because there's just a lot of junctures when this happened that I think that different decision points could have made the whole game turn out differently. And I don't know. I just felt like neither player used their resources, you know, really well. It was all really passive and such, and kind of just like letting things happen, as opposed to taking initiative and saying, you know, this is where I'm going to commit my resources. This is where I want to make something happen. These are the objectives that I'm playing for. So I'm not sure. It was a strange game, and but I still think it's a really interesting one to watch still. So maybe you guys can go back, watch it. Tell me, was there any of the plays that you think that I missed, that they missed? You know, a plan that you say like, okay, you know, I mean, maybe you said, yes, this was the correct way to approach the game. Or maybe you say, no, they definitely should have abandoned, you know, lane 2 earlier. Whatever it is. Like, I think that would have been a much better decision. Specifically, I think that abandoning the mid lane for the side of Freddybabes earlier in the game, like there was a lot of possibilities to get out of there, get some heroes active more in that left lane, maybe, I don't know. And yeah, this TP usage and the teleportation usage, like, and the blink dagger usage, it was all very strange to me. Anyway, that'll be it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Go back and maybe watch it again and tell me what you think about it, and if there's anything that I missed. Of course, remember to submit videos to me if there were specific games from especially this WePlay event that you thought were particularly interesting. I'd love to take more of them. I think they've been great content so far. I'm just absolutely loving all the stuff that I've been able to watch for it. Hoping to catch more of it over the weekend. But that'll do it for me today. Take care, everybody.